Hey guys, I'm back. Originally I wasn't going to do a video on this one, but it's been giving me trouble, so I thought I'd start documenting it from this point forward. Um, Hopefully I'm going to learn something from this, and so will you. So I picked this up cheap on Craigslist, and it wasn't running. It wouldn't start. So I brought it home, did a quick inspection of it, and then just pulled the carburetor off. It looked pretty good. I just cleaned it up and put it back on, started right up. Thought it was done. Let it run for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then it stalled out, and fuel was dripping out of it. So, okay, fine, there's something wrong with the float. Pulled it apart again, and the float height looked wrong, and it was actually leaking out of the top of the bowl, which tells me too that the gasket for the bowl was also bad. So those two things I ordered: a new float, a new gasket, and a new needle. And I happen to have a needle for a Honda GX100, which is the next size up. That needle's a little bit longer, so I did try that in this, and it actually did correct the float level, and it actually looks pretty good, so I might leave that needle in there. I'll still do the bowl gasket, and anyway, I thought, great, problem solved. Started up again, ran about 20 minutes, and then stalled. And it was really hard to restart. There was no gas leaking, and what I think happened was that it flooded, or some sort of rich condition. I did finally get it started again. It was stuttering badly, and no amount of choke would fix it, whether it was on or off or somewhere in between. And it was a lot of smoke coming out. So pulled it apart again, couldn't find anything wrong, so I'm guessing I may have been too aggressive cleaning the jets. I did double check the sizes of the pilot jet and the main jet, and they seem to be right on. I mean, the tools I have to measure it are only so precise, like, whether I can tell the difference between a 58, which is what this is supposed to be for the main jet, or a 60. My equipment isn't that good, so it could in fact be larger than it's supposed to be by a little bit. And on an engine this size, it probably makes a big difference. So I did order a new jet. That'll be here tomorrow, as well as the new float and the bowl gasket. I actually have that already. So tomorrow, I'll turn you back on with all that new stuff in it, see if that fixes the problem. If not, I do have a new carburetor arriving in 2 days, so I'll try that. And hopefully that's it, because if I spend any more money on this, I'm gonna not make out too well on this deal. Anyway, let me start it up and show you what it's doing. It's actually working pretty good right now. Yeah, at low speeds it sounds great. Once you hit kind of an intermediate speed, it starts to stutter, and if you put a load on it, it stutters even more. I only have a 60-watt light bulb, so it's not going to probably stutter severely, but you'll get to see what it's doing, and before I fix it. And then tomorrow I'll turn you back on after everything is put in and see if those new parts fix this issue. Okay, so I turned it back on for a second as it was powering down, just to show you that, you know, even adjusting the choke, there's no difference. Doesn't run any smoother. If anything, it'll start running worse the more you choke it, of course. So anyway, that's it for tonight. I'll turn you back on tomorrow, and we'll see how it runs then. Okay, I'm back. So I got a few parts in the mail. I got the new float and pin, a gasket set, and a new needle, which this is actually for the GX 100 through 160, I think. It actually, I think, will solve the problem I'm having here with the flooding. Actually, I have a needle in there right now that's the size, and it works well. And then the thing that was supposed to come today was the main jet, and it never showed up. It's lost somewhere in New Jersey. But something else did arrive early. And it's a new carburetor. So what I'm going to do is take the main jet out of here, put it in the old carburetor, put all these new parts in the old carburetor, see how it runs. If it fixes it, great. I'll just sell this one on eBay. If it doesn't work, then I'll install this one. So let's get started. Okay, to get the carburetor out, it's actually pretty easy. There's really only one screw and 2 bolts holding the whole thing in. So this is the one screw, I believe. I just remove the cover. And then right here are 2 bolts. Once those bolts are off, it allows you to remove this air assembly. And then the carburetor is more or less free to slide out. There are a few things you got to take care of, namely removing the fuel line, which you can't see right now, and there's also some wires up here on the servo you have to unplug. Then you just got to make sure these hoses are, you know, free. And you can actually unplug them too if you want. So anyway, I'm gonna just loosen this back up and remove the nuts, and then I will turn you back on. Okay, for this I'm going to need 2 hands. I'm going to shut it off for a minute, but I'm just going to take the fuel line off, and then this thing will come right out. Okay, that's a number 10 millimeter. Just gonna pop this bowl off and start replacing. This is the new carburetor. I'm gonna steal the jet from it. Try not to mix up these parts. Need a different screwdriver. Now this seal down here actually could also be causing a ridge condition, or if this jet hole is also off, that could also do it. So the only thing I'm not replacing right now is really this pilot jet, which technically, if it's still doing it after replacing the main jet, then you know, I could come back and swap out the pilot jets. But if it still doesn't work after that, I'm pretty much out of ideas. And it's hard to see, but the seal is right here. So what'll happen is if the seal gets worn out, which this one does look a little bit thin, fuel is supposed to be metered through this hole in the bottom, but if it can kind of get around the side of it, you end up getting more fuel than is supposed to into the, you know, into the carburetor, which will cause it to run rich. There we go. So I'm trying to get this turned a little bit. There's a flat side that has to line up, or you won't be able to push it down all the way. There, I think that's it. And it's down. And this is the idle screw, which for this application, it's not too important because this generator does idle down, so you don't want to over tighten the screw, but it's not gonna, I don't think it ever actually touches the screw when it idles down, unless you turn it in too far. So it's kind of hard to see with the stepper motor on how far I'm in, but I can see I can feel it's just starting to come through, so I think that'll be fine. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I think I just put it back together and start it up. Oh, yeah, it floats. So this was a donor carburetor I used. This is off a Honda clone engine, and it is the next, definitely a couple sizes larger than what's on this motor, but I believe it's in the GX 160 family. Anyway, I stole the needle from this, and I put the original needle that was in this carb in here just so I wouldn't lose it. Yeah, there it is. So I want to try this original needle with the new float and see if it sits any better. And if it does not, then I will just put the new needle on, which is slightly longer. Let me show you. So the original needle is plastic. It looks to be a little bit wider and a little bit shorter. This one is a little thinner, slightly taller. They both have like this spring on the top that the Hondas have. Anyway, I'm really not expecting the original plastic one to fit right, but with the new float, maybe it will. So I'm going to try that. I think you kind of want to hold the spring down a little bit. Try to slide that in. Just like that. This fits terrible. Well, this is the original float. This is the Sten's float. For some reason, it doesn't go down really. It just goes up a bit. And the needle is closed, no matter where I put it. So this is completely useless. So I'm going to go back to this with this needle. Or actually, I'll use the new needle. But this float I am definitely not going to use. Looks pretty good. When it closes, it's fairly level, which is how you want it. And this pin is very loose. So let me just put the pin back in. I'll do the, I'll blow through it just to make sure it's sealing and opening properly. You don't want to hear any noise. You don't want to hear any air coming through when it's in the closed position, or else it's going to leak. Yep, that's good. So I think I only need to put this back in, and I should be good to put it back on the generator and give it a go. Okay, and for this test, I'm not gonna put everything on. I'm just gonna put the servo connector on as well as the fuel line, and then tighten it up. Give it a quick test before making anything too permanent. Probably had this carburetor off 100 times. At least it feels like it. So I'm hoping this will be one of the last. And I'm not going to torque it down. I'll do that later. I'll just get it snug for this test. Alright, that should be good. So, here goes nothing. It's either going to work or fail. Alright, let's give it a try. Choke on. Just filling up the carb bowl. It's going to take a few pulls to do that. Doesn't like something. Okay, battery's running low on my phone, so I just put the new carburetor on. I've wasted enough time with the old one. I'm just going to put it in a box and use it for parts. Anyway, let's try the new one.